She has her own podcast called The Dirty Side of Leadership, and I'd like for her to share a little bit more about that with you. You'll see a flyer on your chair as well. But please give a huge round of applause to Kristen Sokolov.
Everybody, you can see you probably had one of these on your chair. And I think the unique thing, it's a business leadership podcast, but we combined have 55 years of leading teams and divisions within large companies. So we don't just talk about leadership, we actually led. Another thing is we are not woke. Both of us are very conservative Christians and we work that in, though that's not entirely what our message is about. So if you could give us a follow or a subscribe, that would be amazing. And we have been rated top 5% internationally in our genre. So that's been very exciting. We're trending in 64 countries, so that we're going in the right direction. And what's really cool is we do talk about Jesus a lot. We do talk about anti-tyranny and so many things. So clearly that's resonating across the world. So I want to thank everyone in advance. If you could check us out, we're available anywhere you get your podcast.
Yes, keep it going. We're really grateful that God bless us all for the most loving, generous, accepting, powerful nation this world has ever known, our United States. We couldn't be more thankful for the massive embrace that we've received from Clark County over the last 2.5 years and the 11 events that we've had here. It's beyond our expectations, and many of you know that Patriots United started out in obedience to the Holy Spirit. And we set out to solve this issue of disengagement. It doesn't matter whether somebody lives in Clark County or Multnomah County across the bridge, anywhere in our United States. The root of our problems is this issue of disengagement, and the reality that each of us live with here in our United States is that even on our very worst day, life here is still pretty darn good. And for that reason, we disengage from all these decisions that are being made at a very local level that highly affect us. And what we've seen over the last 3.5 years in particular is the consequences of that disengagement really rear its head. So we've had 3 main focuses over the last 2.5 years, providing real actionable solutions around medical freedoms, around our public schools that have turned into government schools, and election integrity and transparency. Tonight is exceptional. This is the second candidate forum that we've done. 2 years ago we had a candidate forum here as well. And it's an incredible opportunity where typically in the long-term game, you want to get people elected who are going to accurately represent your majority voice and understand that it's their role to serve us, to serve we the people. This is not a complicated constitutional republic. This is the structure of our constitutional republic, and this is how it was formed. Government's role is to serve you and I, we the people, and accurately represent our majority voice, and it's important that they work for us. Very important. You're going to hear from men and women tonight directly who are interested in accurately representing their majority voice. There are candidates that were asked to be at this event that didn't respond who are not here. It's important for you to know that. You should know that. There are some candidates that were invited to be here that chose not to respond. And that was their choice. So, if anybody wants to talk to me more about that, I'm happy to share that with you. No doubt about it. And the other gal has an incredible voice. She's the founder of Culture Crossroads USA. She's a committee state woman, and she's been fiercely fighting for your children and their rights here in Washington State for many years now. So please, huge round of applause, come to the stage, Pastor Rich Blum and Carrie French. And Dave's a veteran. Serving on the military. Beautiful. So, Rich, can you guys please pray for us, brother?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here in freedom. We thank you for the price that was paid for us to be able to do that. We thank you for courageous candidates, and Lord, we know they are courageous because they're standing up and they're standing out and they're speaking out. And they're speaking out for us. And we're grateful for them being here. Thank you for them taking the call. Father, I pray that you would protect them. I pray that you protect them from the evil one. I pray that you would protect their families from the attack of the evil one that will come upon them because of their willingness to stand in the gap in a spiritual battle and proclaim the truth. Embolden them. Father, protect their character. Give them courage. Give them courage to stand when no one else will. Give them the courage to speak when no one else will. Give them the courage to proclaim the truth of who you are when no one else will. Give them the ability to interact with people who aren't for them. Give them grace. Give them mercy. Give them encouragement, Lord. Use them in a mighty way. Thank you for them. But Father, we also pray that this evening would be used to glorify your name. We'll be hearing from candidates. Thank you, Lord. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your voice through all of this. So we pray that you would be glorified, that you would be made known, and that the name of Jesus would be honored, even in this event. I thank you that it already has been. I know that it will be. And I pray that your will would be accomplished, your goals would be accomplished. And Father, that we would leave here better informed, better citizens, and Father, more closely following after your heart. Do that here tonight in our hearts and accomplish your will to your glory. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I came down here from King County, and I gotta tell you, we need your prayers. We are the front lines. So, in the spirit of being from King County, I want to do a land acknowledgement. Psalms 24:1. The whole earth belongs to the Lord. There you go. If you would all stand up. I think we should all do that when we're happy to do a land acknowledgement. The whole earth belongs to the Lord. And put your hand over your heart. That would make my heart very happy. And turn towards our beautiful flag. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran their love bursting in, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Great job, Michelle is the one candidate that we can count on now in our county council to really accurately represent our majority voice on a consistent basis. She's doing a great job in District 2. Great job, Michelle. We need more men and women with their courage to be able to accurately represent us so that our constitutional republic remains. Most recently, Rob has done an incredible job with the Restore Election Confidence Initiative, and I've asked him to give a summary and update to everyone. So please, join me in a huge round of applause for Rob Anderson.
Thank you, Mike. So, corruption thrives in darkness. And Jesus has called us to be light in a dark world. And so it's very important that all of us decide right now. I know that many of you already have, but so many of us, you have a role to play in all of this. And so when God kind of nudged me a few years ago regarding the mini initiative and saying, hey, wait a minute, these mandated these mandates that are coming down are not constitutional. They are not going to hold up. And, you know, time is bearing that out to be accurate. And so many of you got involved in that, and then so many other things where I just decided, you know what, I don't want to just make noise, I want to move the needle. I believe that God wants us to be in the room. Again, when we aren't in the room, there's no light. Think about that. Darkness and corruption go together, but when we're not in the room, there's no light. And corruption and darkness will thrive in those situations. And again, Jesus has called us to be there. So on December 19th of last year, 2023, I filed a Restore Election Confidence Initiative that really came out of the fact that, and many of you probably know, that not all is all right here in Clark County regarding our election procedures and situations. And of course, there's those that want to tell us that everything's just fine. Well, I believe that there's room for improvement, let's just put it that way. And so the Restore Election Confidence in connection with the election integrity team, with the election integrity team at the state level, getting involved on December 19th, I filed that, and lo and behold, now, the county government, let me just tell you one of the things about the county government, and Michelle can back this up. Things don't happen fast, okay? They happen very slow. But in 2 days, on December 21st, I got a reply. And it was the prosecuting attorney's office saying, you know what, I don't know what this is really saying, and we think it might do this, it might do that, we don't know, scratch our heads, but we're not going to allow it onto the ballot. Now, any of you know the Home Rule Charter, which is kind of like the Clark County Constitution. That's not how things are supposed to go. So I pushed back. They sent me another letter saying, oh, we've come up with brand new reasons why we're not going to allow this. And so I filed a writ of mandamus just up the road there in Skamania County, because there's one Superior Court judge up there that it seems like it's pretty fair. And lo and behold, 24 hours later, I get a phone call from the prosecuting attorney's office saying, okay, we're going to do something, we're going to allow that, we're going to follow the law. And so many of you know the rest of the story. Dozens of volunteers went out and we endured 50 rainy days out of only 120 days that were allowed to collect it. Get this, so 120 days to collect signatures, yet the bureaucrats get more time to process and put it on the ballot than the people get to collect signatures. So we fell short, but Kinsey is more on the record. He responded multiple times, and he's trying to run away from the fact of problems that came up in the 2022 recounts here, from the Joe Kent campaign, from the Don Benton campaign, that showed that ballots weren't counted properly. But he doesn't want to talk about that. That's okay. The thing that we should do, and not forget in this, is that the reason why I put initiatives and do these kind of things is because it keeps the conversation, it puts the pressure, it brings light into the room. And corruption shows itself. So even though we might fall short in complaints that I filed just recently, ethics complaints, by the way, just so that you know, the Ethics Commission has determined that if you don't follow the law, that's not an ethics violation of Clark County, because they refuse to investigate what the prosecuting attorney's office did by just not following the law. It's crazy. And so, or Kinsey can mislead the government, the public, and the Clark County Council, and that's not an ethics violation. So it warms my heart a little bit, even though I want them to do the right thing, and I always try to give people the space to make the right decisions and do the right thing, but when they don't, we need to be in the room. One last thing that I want to tell you about that's coming up next week. So June 25th, 10 a.m., Clark County Council, there is a hearing that will be for the charter amendment on initiatives that Kinsey put together. Now, I told you about the prosecuting attorney's office breaking the law. They're trying to change that law so that they can do what they tried to do illegally, make that legal. Does that make sense? They want to give the prosecuting attorney's office, expand their powers that effectively they can shut down any initiative that they don't like. So only initiatives in Clark County that will go forward will be county administrative elite approved. And all they have to do is, just like what they tried with me, is write a letter saying, we don't like this. We're not going to allow it. So June 25th, next Tuesday, 10 a.m. is a Clark County Council meeting. If 1/10 of the people here just show up at 10 a.m. and speak up and say, we don't want this. We don't want our initiative powers to be abridged, which, by the way, is a Washington State Constitution saying that the power of petition shall never be abridged. And that's what's happening. So 10 a.m. next Tuesday, 25th, they're trying to expand the prosecuting attorney's office powers over the people's rights to initiative. You can be there. You can speak up respectfully, kindly, don't call names, and you can be the light in the room. Because, my friends, light is not there for its own self. Light is there to illuminate and to provide visibility in the sense of the corruption that's there. You can be that light.
An important part of our Patriots United leadership team, and another key component to light is that darkness flees, and the light. Darkness cannot exist when light shines on that. It's one of the beautiful parts about being the body of Christ. There's three people that I want to honor really briefly, and they have no idea that I'm going to do this, but we saw light show up June 3rd, about 2.5 weeks ago in Battleground, and the mayor there, Troy McCoy, was confused, and he was going to make a mistake and go and make a decision that didn't accurately represent our majority voice, and he wanted to read a proclamation that was praise and pride. And we had 140 God-loving patriots that showed up and made sure that didn't happen. There were 3 county councilmen, city council members in Battleground that were a key role in making sure that they accurately represent our majority voice. And I'm going to invite them to the stage right now. Please give a huge round of applause to Eric Overholzer, Trisha Davis, and Victoria Ferrara. Give them a huge round of applause. Trisha, where are you? Victoria, where are you? Sit them up here. Eric, is there anything, I know it's totally impromptu, is there anything that really stood out to you about that day that you want to share with everybody here tonight?
No, she's just talking.
Oh, is she?
Sorry.
Yeah, by the way, Mike did not let me know that I was going to be called up here. Come on, where's Trisha? She got me. Okay, I'll let the mic, thank you. No, I think when you have kingdom business to conduct, we have a majority in Battleground that doesn't believe in a proclamation. We have a woke agenda being tried to shove down our throats. The only thing we can rely on, just like we can rely on every day, is the power of Jesus. So, he made the way. I'll give all the glory to God. I was just faithful and obedient in my call. Thank you.
We have to give all the glory to God. Really? I need to be louder? Do you? Really? Okay. I've never had that problem. Okay. Eat the mic. Okay. So yeah, obviously we have to give it to God. He gave us the tools that we needed, right? He put it into policy. The enemy thought they were getting away with something, and God revealed the policy, the tool that we needed in our policy to tackle this. And it's only through His grace that we were able to accomplish that. So thank you, Lord. We appreciate everything that you're doing for our body, for our country. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
terrific. We give a huge round of applause to Eric and Victoria and Tricia. This is a win locally. This is what it looks like when you have men and women that stand up and accurately represent our majority voice to make sure that your babies, your children, your grandchildren don't have this agenda that's after their hearts and souls. They make sure that that does not get to them. They stand in the gap. Any husband, any wife, any parent, any grandparent, who wouldn't step in between their child and deception? Great job, great job. So there's another group of people that we really want to represent here and appreciate at a local level over the last 2.5 years, something that we certainly are encouraged by as Patriots United. We've helped inspire a little over 70 different people to run in contested races to become precinct committee officers. And this group of people has voting power that's changed our local Republican Party and being able to put people in positions that are also interested in accurately representing your majority voice. If you're a PCO, please stand up, and you deserve a huge round of applause. Huge round of applause for all PCOs in the room. If you're interested in making a massive difference and taking your involvement to the next level, we've got a table right back there for the Clark County Republican Party. Get involved. Get involved and make a difference. Find out if your precinct is open to become a precinct committee officer. You help get candidates elected that are going to accurately represent your majority voice. You help make decisions at a local level where you can preserve the future of your children and your grandchildren. It's a great way to get involved at the local level. Who says Matt Bunnell is doing a good job? Matt Bunnell. Thank you so much again, Eric, Victoria. Please give me a huge round of applause. Asked was, well, under the structure of kings, the most dominant structure of government this world has ever seen, if I disagree with that king, I can be put to death. The penalty, if you disagree with the king under the structure of kings, is death. But there's a 100% chance I'm going to die someday, and when I pass away, who stands in my account before God? Does that king come and stand in my account before God? He sure doesn't. I'm accountable for my decisions. We're all accountable for the decisions we make in this lifetime before God. Our founders knew that. And they said, I'm not going to bow to that king because he's not accountable for my life. There's freedoms and liberties that are given to us by God in our Declaration of Independence. It's abundantly clear. There's no man, there's no woman that gave us these rights in our United States. These are God-given, inalienable rights, and those are found in our Declaration of Independence. And we can be thankful for the men and women that sacrifice those freedoms and liberties because we all have them in our family line. Every single one of us has a hero in our family line that made this life-threatening, life-changing decision to immigrate here to our United States, to experience these freedoms. Even someone who's radical, liberal, at some point in time, there was somebody in their family line who was grateful to know that they couldn't live underneath tyranny. They needed to be in a place where they could have some freedoms and liberties. My mother and father-in-law grew up in communist Romania under Nicolae Ceausescu's rule. The parting words from the Communist Party to my father-in-law were, the hand of the revolution can reach you no matter where you are. And there were 2 attempts on his life and his brother's life when they went to Canada initially. My family line goes back 12 generations in our United States, before we were the United States, when we were the New World. Stephen Hopkins, my grandfather, any of you know Bill Federer? So Bill Federer is well known for his American Minute. When we helped bring Bill Federer to Bethel, he knew of my great-grandfather 12 generations back, and I so enjoyed my conversation with Bill. It was exceptional. So my great-grandfather was on the Sea Venture as it was headed to Jamestown, a completely failed mission. They got shipwrecked on Bermuda for 9 months. 5 days and 4 nights leading up to being shipwrecked on Bermuda, every single person on the Sea Venture thought they were going to die. They were taken on water, and that ship was ready to sink, and every single person on there was ready to meet their maker. Every single one of them. I'm so glad he didn't lose his life. If he did, I wouldn't be here. I'm so glad my father-in-law didn't lose his wife. I wouldn't have my beautiful wife, my 3 babies, 2 beautiful, smart, strong daughters, and a son. We all have somebody in our family line that made these sacrifices. And it didn't just happen by accident. Somebody had the courage. My grandfather, after they get to Jamestown, they make their way back to England. He's on the Mayflower. He was a leading author of the Mayflower Compact. Is anybody familiar with history? Strong in history? The Mayflower Compact is the very first document ever written that stated that the government would be structured to serve the people. Really important component, and our Constitution was modeled after the Mayflower Compact. He was there at the legendary Thanksgiving dinner in Plymouth. My family was represented there. I could not be more thankful every day to wake up in our United States and know that these rights that we have were given to us by God and God alone. We don't need to thank the government for anything. In our constitutional republic, it is fair for every single one of us to expect every state, local, and federal representative to have their heart completely positioned in a place of serving. Servant leadership. This is what they're signing up to do as a public servant. And tonight is exceptional. A huge opportunity to make a difference at a local level right now as you hear from the men and women that are interested in accurately representing your majority voice. This opportunity is not found anywhere else in our Washington state. What we're doing as Patriots United has been blessed by God, obviously, and to be able to bring this many candidates here in one place with 400 local citizens on a Thursday night during the summer to be able to make an informed decision about their future. How beautiful is that? So as we kick things off tonight, we're starting with our county council candidates. And the first candidate that I'm going to bring up is Peter Serrano, representing District 4. Peter is going to share with us, he has 3 minutes to share with us. You'll notice when each candidate, when we get into our panels, if you see Wendy put up a yellow sign, that means that the candidate has 15 seconds left. When you see the red sign go up, they're done. There's expectations on each of these candidates to have concise answers to serve. Each of you tonight is an evening for the people, by the people. And the expectations are each of these candidates is going to answer questions, the most important questions, to we the people at a local level to make sure they give concise answers, and each of us can decide how do we want to support that candidate moving forward. He's going to be sharing why he's decided to run. He's going to talk about the issues he's hearing from his constituents, the most common issues, and how he plans to fix them. And Wendy's keeping time. Peter, God bless you, brother. Here you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me and for giving me the time to chat briefly. Ever since I filed that I'm going to run for office, the same questions come up. Peter, why are you running? Why you, why now? And I always start by saying I've been in Clark County for 30 years. Clark County is home for me. My wife and I have been married by the grace of God 10 years now. We have 2 amazing children. I went to elementary, middle, high, and college here in Clark County. Clark County is home for me and my family. And I don't like the direction that our country is going, and I don't particularly like the direction that Clark County is going. Instead of cutting costs and finding ways to save, the county has done nothing but become more bloated and overran. Instead of providing for the small businesses and families, which are the backbone of our economy and community, they're going the opposite direction. And I believe I can change that. My name is Peter Serrano, and I'm running for Clark County Councilor, District 4. My family moved to America from Romania, a communist-stricken country. And I don't want to see the evil and the devastation of communism and totalitarian government have its place here in America, let alone here in Clark County. It has no place here. No place here. But unfortunately, because of bad policies and a bloated government, we are seeing some of this rear its ugly head. The homeless problem is out of control. The drug problem is out of control. Since 2018, drug overdoses have more than doubled. And the homeless crisis is not getting any better. And we're not going to follow what Portland is doing, because throwing more money at it will not fix the problem. We are not going to be Portland 2.0. I do not want Clark County to be a Portland 2.0. So we got to take a step in the right direction. More than that, the government and spending need to stop. The overly bloated, the overly spending government needs to stop. We saw how during COVID, instead of promoting small businesses and families, money was used for the government to grow and develop instead of shrink and save the end user money. This needs to stop. Our taxes need to be lowered, and our small businesses need to be unleashed to thrive. Amen? Amen. So how do we do it? Now, as counselor, there's 2 main drivers, 2 main focal points that we'll have access to, and that is taxes and land use. And I'm running to make sure, and I want you to hear this, that they work for you. I am hoping that you will vote for me so that I will work for you. Not the county, not the state, not the federal level, but that I will work for you, as was said, to accurately represent the majority vote. Not what I want, not what the county wants, not what the state wants, but what you want. So yes, I'm going to advocate for small businesses. I'm going to advocate for families. I'm going to advocate for lower taxes, less regulations, and we're going to work to get housing costs down and fight back against crushing and crippling inflation. My name is Peter Kutal, District 4, vote for me. God bless.
With Patriots United, and Justina's done an incredible job with standing up for all of our children in the public schools. She's our social media director. You might know her as the Center Lioness. But she's going to be helping ask questions to each of the panelists tonight, and she's just blessed by God with her courage. Wendy has really stood up to the medical establishment in an incredible way, and after 30 years in medical, she had her job leveraged against her, and she stood up. She stood up and she chose not to take the jab. Any questions about their health? Wendy can help you with that. She's our action committee leader for all things medical freedoms, but when you see the cards tonight going up, she's helping keep everything on time and on schedule. So we talked about Kristen earlier. She's my co-host. She has been blessed with her gift of courage. She's able to communicate that accurately, and you can find her at KSOC48. She's got a remarkable following on social media. She's my co-host for our events, and she is going to be also her podcast. You need to check out Kristen's podcast, that's for sure. But we've got an important group where 4 months ago, Wendy connected me with Jenny Donnelly and Shauna Danberg with her voice, and their Don't Mess With Our Kids movement. Were any of you at the Capitol a couple months ago? Beautiful, yeah, we had a couple thousand people there here in Washington State, and they've got an incredible opportunity October 12th coming up, and Wendy's going to share with us a little bit about that.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to share about this because I've been involved with these ladies since 2016. And back then we were just a group of ladies that were, we were having Esther treatments is what we called it, from the book of Esther. We took a year and we were figuring out who we were as daughters of the King. And little did we know what that was going to evolve into. And it evolved into a huge prayer movement. And then that prayer movement continues to evolve to boots on the ground. So now we are mama bears that we are going to make sure that our kids are not messed with. So that's what this is about. You should all have a card on your chair. There's a code on here that you can go on and learn about this. This is something that we want everybody to be involved with. It's it says 1 million women, but it's actually everybody, men, women, moms, dads, grandpas, uncles, aunts. You don't even have to have kids, but if you love kids, this is Don't Mess With Our Kids movement. We want 1 million people to march on the square at Washington, D.C. on October 12th. Believe it or not, they were able to apply and get, that's the Day of Atonement. So that just feels really meant to be that the Lord is going to move, and we're going to pray for our kids, we're going to pray for our government. And this is just an amazing program. If you go on there and learn about it, it's lots of organization, a lot of encouragement, and just support. So if you want extra flyers to take your church to get involved, we have many between myself and my friend Tracy over there. So yeah, just let us know. We can answer any of your questions. We'd love to. So we just want everybody to be involved. Oh, sorry. Shauna Danberg and Jenny Donnelly also have a podcast. It's just amazing. They interview such amazing people to help keep us abreast. One of my favorite podcasts that they did just happened to be one of Mike Terry and Alice Terry. And it was just amazing. If you can find that one, go and listen to it and learn about our leader here as well.
Let's give Wendy a huge round of applause. So all the questions that you're going to hear tonight are coming from locals. This is what we expect of the candidates. John Lee and Lucia Worthington, please join us on stage. Please give Hannah, Brad, John, Lucia a huge round of applause as we get started. So this first question, they have 3 minutes to answer. Kristen, ladies first. Kick us off.
Excellent. My first question is for Hannah Joy. I'm going to go a little closer here because I'm blinded by the light. Okay, so Hannah Joy is running for the 17th Legislative District, State Representative, and my question is on reducing the cost of living. So Hannah, one of your key campaign promises is to reduce the cost of living in Washington. You have proposed several measures, such as lowering taxes, repealing the cap-and-trade tax scheme, and allowing citizens to opt out of the payroll tax for the long-term care benefit. Can you elaborate on how these measures will specifically impact middle and lower-income families? Additionally, how do you plan to navigate potential opposition in legislature to ensure these changes are implemented?
Absolutely, and thank you for that, I appreciate that. So yes, one of the biggest issues we are facing in the state of Washington is the cost of living. We're all feeling it. Your groceries are high, you're struggling to put gas in your car, you gotta buy new clothes and stuff for your kids for school, and it's all just increasing. All the while, we have massive amounts of money in Olympia. Other states have a program that if there is an overage of money that got from taxes, they give it back to the people. We've seen this in other states. That is not the case for Washington. They're like, we're swimming in it. What can we give and to who? Who can we buy? And that's a big issue. We have major mismanagement of our taxpayers in Washington state. So it's about time we start reducing the cost for you guys. And one of those ways is through the cap-and-trade scheme. They have increased the amount of taxes on your gas, but where is that money going? I believe it was $40 million that came from those the first time it was put through, and not a single penny of that went back to our roads or infrastructure. That's a big deal. That's a really big problem. Where is that money going, and why is it not getting to the places we need it to get? So we need your input. Just recently brought that if you work 500 hours or more a month, you can get it after you pay in for a certain amount of time. But if you stop paying into it for a little bit of time, you're not eligible. You have to start all over again. This is a major flaw. Talk about any young family who's trying to get started in the world and mom needs to stop to raise her kids for a little bit. She's just now lost that. She has to start all over from scratch. This is anti-family policy and it has to go away. Because we all know that a civil society is based on families and how healthy families are in the state. So we need to start making sure that we're creating happy, healthy families by making it affordable for them to have them. So that is another way. And taxes in general are just out of control. We're looking at property tax and gas tax and payroll tax and this tax. And the taxing in the state of Washington is one of the worst I've ever seen. B&O tax. Now you have income tax. They're going to keep coming at us until we stand up, and we've got to stop. And I don't know where the timer is. Oh, you're there. Hi. We're doing good. Great. So yes, reduce taxes, making the cost of living affordable, because that is a necessity. Do I need to keep going?
So my question is for Brad on the topic of the I-5 Columbia River crossing and transportation infrastructure. So Brad, you have expressed strong opposition to the extension of light rail into Vancouver as part of the Columbia River crossing project. And it was citing concerns about increased homelessness and traffic issues. Instead, you support infrastructure options that include a new I-5 bridge with expanded lanes and additional river crossings. But you are firmly against any form of tolling. Can you provide more details on your proposed solutions for the I-5 Columbia River crossing that align with your principles?
It's likely that the person elected to the Senate in the 18th District will be the most influential person in shaping the future of the I-5 River Bridge project. We know that because the current senator, 4 or 5 years ago, reopened the old CRC and put us in the situation that we're in today. It will require somebody in this seat going to Olympia and passionately fighting for you, fighting for the district, so that we can reshape the project into something that works for us. Currently, if they replace that bridge with a bridge that's 100 lanes wide, it won't do a lick of difference because you'll still have a bottleneck on either side. The volume is too much for that bridge, it's too much for two bridges, which is why what I know we need is a third bridge. We need a third crossing over that river. And I know that we can get it done for less than the proposed $7.5 billion because there's currently plans in place to replace a bridge up the river in White Salmon for $500 million. So I know we can do it for less. The problem is nobody's up there fighting for that solution. We need somebody who will go and fight for that. We can also get rid of the $2 billion light rail add-on. I worked in Portland for a number of years, and I had to ride the light rail almost every day because parking's so bad down there, and because the traffic's so bad. It's not safe, all right? It's a one-way homelessness superhighway. Portland wants to send their problem over the river to us. So we have to shut that down immediately. So we shut that down. We take the money that we have, we build a third bridge, and we do it without tolls. I know we can do it without tolls because the state budget is full of wasteful spending. They want to convert the state's fleet of ferries from diesel to electric. Is that a good use of our taxpayers' money? No, let's use some of that money to help build a third bridge so that we can fix the problem, all right? It will take a fighter to go to Olympia and drive positive change. I'm passionate about this. I want to be that person. I want to be accessible to people. When I meet them, I say, here's my cell phone number, 360-931-4574. Send me an email at brad@bradbentonforsenate.com and check out my website. Tell me about the issues that are important to you. Republicans from the 18th district that are in Olympia right now don't work for us. They work for themselves and special interests and the caucus. That's who they work for. I want to go to Olympia to work for you.
Legislative district. This question, John, is about state spending and tax reform. John, you've highlighted the need to rein in unsustainable state spending and implement tax reforms to combat inflation. With 3 citizen initiatives that you've supported becoming law, how do you plan to further reduce state spending while ensuring essential services are not compromised? Additionally, can you elaborate on your proposed tax reforms, such as ending the carbon tax, reversing the capital gains excise tax, and allowing people to opt out of the state payroll tax, and how these measures will provide relief to Washington's residents?
I'll piggyback off of some of what my friends said. Washington does not have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. That's right. This year, if you read the Daily Dead Fish Wrapper with a hat tip to Lars, who refers to the Oregonian every day that way, Oregonians are expecting $5.5 billion of their money to be given back to them in the form of a tax rebate. Washington State is even better off than Oregon. If Oregon can give their citizens $5.5 billion back, that is how much money we have in a slush fund that we need to be spending. Well, I was going to say spending more responsibly. No, we shouldn't be taking it to begin with. That's the real issue, number one. So let's talk affordable housing. It's impossible to have affordable housing when property taxes are unaffordable. And property taxes are kicking far too many people, senior citizens on fixed incomes, out of their homes. In fact, 4 years ago when I ran against Senator Ann Rivers, she said the location that had the most seniors losing their homes due to high property taxes was right here in Camas, Washington. It's an outrage that the government takes more of your money than you get to keep when you're the one earning it. We are using the tool we have left in our Constitution, the Citizens Initiative. Thank goodness. We're supposed to have separation of powers, right? the governor, the legislature representing you, and the Supreme Court that interprets the laws and the Constitution. We don't have that anymore. Republicans are within 1 seat in the House, 1 seat in the Senate of losing control of everything. The one tool we have is the Citizens Initiative. God bless Tim Eyman, who a decade ago discovered the power of that tour, and most recently, Jim Walsh, head of the Washington State Republican Party, has discovered that. He wrote 6 initiatives, 3 of which became law because the Democrats were so afraid that if it got on the ballot this November, that it would create a red wave that they want to avoid. So you get a chance to vote on 3 more of those to repeal and protect no income tax in Washington State, to eliminate the payroll tax. I could go on. I'm going to be a no vote. I'm going to be in the minority, but I will proudly be a no vote against any tax increases and fighting for responsible spending.
So running for the 49th Legislative District, question 1, this is about addressing crime and public safety. Lucia, your platform emphasizes a strong stance on stopping crime and restoring safety where we live. Can you provide specific strategies you plan to implement to reduce crime rates effectively? Additionally, how do you intend to address the root causes of crime?
Thank you. I think we have become a culture of a crime culture in that many of us don't really understand what's happening, and we're afraid to say much about it. So when we're looking at crime itself, one of the problems initially is that there's lack of enforcement. Even if it's enforced, there are no penalties. So when you're looking at one of the main ones is something we've pretty well accepted, and that's retail crime. If you go to any store, you'll see people there, someone who is monitoring the people who are coming in. Well, that actually is going to cost us more money by condoning this crime that's happening in the retail stores. There's a lot of retail crime that we've just accepted. A long time ago, I used to have a grocery store, and I would have little kids coming in, basically stealing penny candy. I would call the police would come, the parents would come, and it would be a big scandal, and I think most of the kids were cured from that. We don't have that anymore. So, we actually have condoned crime because many of us are afraid to say anything. Unfortunately, the media doesn't help us. So I talk about the First Amendment. The First Amendment is being able to have the courage to speak our mind. And many of us are no longer comfortable with speaking our mind because we're called all sorts of names. So as far as crime itself, I think there is a crime culture that's slowly grown. For instance, many of us don't go to Portland anymore. I used to love Portland, but I can go, I'm very careful about where I go. I don't go on the Max anymore because people have been murdered on the Max. So I just, there's a lot of avoidance on our part, but I think enforcement is the thing. So I'm not a legal scholar, but as far as I know, if you don't enforce the law, it kind of disappears. And that's sort of what's been happening. I don't know if you're familiar with the boiled frog syndrome. I used to teach that when I was teaching business. The boiled frog syndrome is if you put a frog in warm water and it just sits there, if you slowly turn up the heat, it dies. It doesn't even know. So I think that's one of the things I'm looking at with crime. Thank you so much.
So, Hannah, you have emphasized the importance of building Washington's economy by encouraging industries to come to the state and supporting small businesses through regulatory reform. You also propose restoring law enforcement's ability to chase criminal suspects and prosecute those found guilty, which you believe will allow businesses to focus more on customer service rather than security concerns. Can you detail the specific regulatory reforms you plan to implement to attract and support businesses?
Yeah, I'll try and take up all my time because I'm practicing to be a politician. I think one of the most important things that we can do in the state of Washington is reduce the taxes for businesses. Small businesses have been vilified in the state of Washington. We really have. I used to own a small business in Washington. I know how difficult it was to keep employees and how difficult it was to keep up with regulations and red tape and all of this stuff. And then as the businesses get larger, of course, their taxes get larger. We saw an exodus of industries leave Washington when those taxes hit. What does that mean for families? That means lost jobs. That means unaffordable housing. That's a lot of issues. It's a tentacled issue. So yes, we have retail crime out of control, smash and grabs, all of your groceries. You go into Target, your shampoo is now locked up behind glass cases, your formula is locked up, and it's only going to continue that way until we can stop retail theft. It will help also with the cost of living, because now they won't have to put so much investment into protecting those items, right? Another issue we have is that nobody's prosecuted. So if somebody comes in, they drive a truck straight through your bicycle shop. This is a real issue. They'll steal your bicycles. You claim insurance. You repair it. You get new stuff, new bicycles. They do it again. Well, at some point, insurance is going to drop you. So now you have businesses that can't have insurance because the crime is so much. It's just a cascading effects of crazy chaos. Another issue that we have is electricity. We have all of these laws that are cart before the horse. We want to ban any sale of gas-powered vehicles by 2050, go electric. We want to ban gas-powered utilities in your homes moving forward to build. And now we want to take it away and you have to convert your home to electric. Our electrical grid can't handle that. That's a known fact. We are going to have massive brownouts, we're going to have massive blackouts if we do that. Now let's take that into industry. Industry is mostly on the west side of the state. That is where most of it is, because that's where most people want to live. But any type of new green-powered energy is being produced on the east side of the state. Your wind, your solar. The amount of money that it takes to do transitory electric from the east to the west is going to increase the cost even more. It is a cascading effect of cost rising, cost rising, cost rising. Why would anybody want to create industry in the state of Washington? So we've got a mixed bag. We've got small businesses who are suffering and closing. We've got larger industries who are realizing they are no longer profitable or can afford to stay in the state, and the other ones look really good. So let's just address it head on. Let's address the laws that are preventing our small businesses and our industries from succeeding and creating jobs for our families.
Any form of tax increase emphasizing the need for better government, financial management, and reduced spending to enable tax cuts. Given the rise in property taxes that contribute to the housing crisis and disproportionately affect senior citizens on those on fixed incomes, can you elaborate on your specific strategies and legislative plans to protect private property rights while simultaneously addressing the high property tax issue, and how you intend to balance these priorities to ensure both individual property rights and financial relief for homeowners are maintained?
You have my word that I will never, as your state senator, vote for a new tax or a tax increase of any kind. And any candidate that doesn't look you in the eye and make you that same promise doesn't deserve your vote. The state takes more than enough of our hard-earned money to properly fund its obligations to us. As John said, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a reckless spending problem. The state budget has doubled in the last 10 years. It's ballooned to almost $70 billion. And we carry a budget surplus of $3.3 billion. But nobody fights to give that money back to us. Nobody fights to reallocate the money that they already have. to create tax relief and fund other projects. There's $50 billion in the state budget to fund illegal immigrant programs. That's our money, right? That money should be used for Washingtonians, for Americans. We have been failed by the Republicans that have been sent to Olympia to advocate on our behalf. It's going to take, as I said before, a fighter, somebody who's passionate about this. Somebody who's not afraid to rock the boat to get things done. We get the same old tired line of we're in the minority, we can't do anything. Yes, we can. You know, if we know the rule book better, we can still do things in the minority. If we know the initiative process, we can still do things in the minority and get some of our legislation passed. One of the things I'd like to see specifically on property taxes is maybe we can put something in place where the value of your home, when you buy it, that is the rate that's taxed on for the remainder of the time you own the home. We lock you into that value, and that's what you pay tax on. Otherwise, you're paying taxes on inflation over a 30-year period, and that's not right. Right? How are we going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it with the budget surplus. We're going to reallocate money so it's spent better and so it's spent on you guys. Okay? I'm asking you, if you're behind me, if you like what I had to say, please tell other people about me, even if you don't live in my district. When I kill a tax on the floor of the Senate, it's not just going to be for people in the 18th, it's going to be for all of you, for all of Washington. So please, get behind my campaign. Come over and talk to me tonight. I've got a sign-up sheet where I can get your information. Walk the neighborhood for me.
John, you know it's coming for you. Project, as well as Oregon's tolling scheme. Can you provide more details on your vision for improving Washington's transportation infrastructure without increasing gas tax?
Thank you for that question. And for the next hour, I will put it forward. For those of you that don't know me, I am the Clark County transportation guru. I never set out to be it. I got involved in our community when we fought the Columbia River crossing a decade ago. I got to know amazing patriots like David Olson, Tiffany Couch, so many people that dug into the details. Short answer, our government actually did something good. Yes, that's coming out of John Lee's mouth. In 2007 and 2008, our Regional Transportation Council did a study and they said when Clark County population reaches 1 million people, what will we need for transportation corridors to move people and freight and goods efficiently around the county? And they said we will need not 1, but 2 new bridges over the Columbia River. And they provided 2 options for each bridge. One bridge right here from Camas to Troutdale, another one at 192nd connecting to 181st in Portland, and 2 options west of the I-5 bridge. It was absolutely spot on. Short answer, Portland has 12 bridges across the Willamette River. Why are we limited to only 2 bridges to cross the Columbia River? Additional issue, what is people's most valuable thing in their life other than the good Lord and their family? It's their time. Overwhelmingly, every single survey says people want to reduce traffic congestion and save time, and yet the $7.5 billion interstate bridge project ignores saving time and reducing traffic congestion. In fact, they're promising that by 2045, the morning commute time from Salmon Creek to the Fremont Bridge will double from 29 minutes today to 60 minutes. Furthermore, they say half of rush hour traffic will be stuck going 0 to 20 miles an hour. It's an abomination, and if you had common sense leaders in Olympia and in the nation's capital, they would say we're not spending a penny on something that fails to save people time and reduce traffic congestion. So the easy answer is we've got to go fight I am happy to continue digging into the details on this. Go to clarkcountytoday.com, hit transportation and land startups. An issue I just revealed last week. 54% of the surface of the new bridge is not going for cars or trucks. It's going for bicyclists, pedestrians, and transit. Yes, it's a waste of your money.
Question is for Lucia on the topic of infrastructure and transportation modernization. Lucia, you have highlighted the need to fix roads and bridges and modernize our transportation system strategically. Can you elaborate on your plan for achieving this? Specifically, how will you prioritize projects to ensure the most critical infrastructure needs are addressed first?
Well, it seems like we're in agreement here. I think we've got a bunch of us who are really looking at this in a strategic way. And strategically, that means, 10, 20, 30 years from now. Right now, we have a relatively small population base here when you compare it to other cities who use light rail. We're not ready for light rail, for instance, because we're mostly rural. Someone living way out past Battleground going into Portland would need to get a car to put in a light rail place. I used to live in the DC area, and there were lots of parking garages of people who would go to the metro to then take the light rail into metro into the city. So I look at it strategically. I agree with these two, and John has been a really good source of information. I think we need a truck route. We need a truck route that links both ports, and that is the port of Vancouver as well as the port of Portland. It's absolutely absurd to think that we're going to be following a truck through Portland that is going actually to Mexico. So we need a speedy truck route. One of the things that apparently it costs $50 billion as a B, 50 billion B, in truck idling in the United States. So the truck idling, when you're looking at truck idling, that means that they have to pass on the cost. Trucking is very expensive, and many of them are small operators. They need to pass on, if they're idling for 20 minutes even, and then delivering to Costco or wherever, they're going to have to put that in their invoice. They're going to have to pass on, which basically is part of inflation when you're looking at the truck idling part. In addition to that, the Green New Deal people don't really consider all the exhaust from trucks that is there when they're idling. So that's the other thing. But an infrastructure for have a good economy, when you're looking at macroeconomics, that means you have to have a base of good transportation systems. And that is for passengers, but also for commerce. And so commerce needs to have that. In addition to that, we have a lot of roads that just need to be repaired. One of the things with the I-5 bridge, we still don't have the Coast Guard saying that what they want would be working. It doesn't work for us. The Coast Guard doesn't like it. Thank you.
Great job. That's a great compliment, being able to move more people to action, bring people together, and recognize our shared values. And nobody's going to do this work for us, that's for sure. Please welcome to the stage the president of Clark County Republican Women. She's also going to give a message in regards to Sharon Hannick, who's running for treasurer, who couldn't be here with us tonight. Please put your hands together for Liz Klein.
Thank you. I have the honor of serving the folks of Clark County as the president of Clark County Republican Women.
I'm in my second year. Actually, it's 3 years because I finished up the other half of another term. And we are a great group of women. First, I want to talk to you about the gal, Sharon Hannock. I was one of the delegates to the Spokane WSRP convention, and you'll get to meet a number of the statewide candidates and hear from them. But this gal was present, and she didn't announce that she was running for treasurer. I said, Sharon, why didn't you announce? You could have gotten endorsed. She says, well, I didn't know I was going to run. When I saw that there was one Democrat running and no Republicans, I decided to file. So, Sharon's a dynamo. She's a smallish gal. She is actually the club advisor of the Clark County Republican Women. She is on the executive board of the Washington Federation of Republican Women. And she gave me something to read to you. Many of you may know Sharon as Research Mom and have heard her speak on topics like education, taxes, elections, and family values. However, it may come as a surprise to some to know that Sharon's background is accounting. She is a CPA with over 25 years of experience in tax and accounting services. Sharon has garnered a wealth of knowledge and understanding Washington State's government and its systems. She was the 2023 statewide coordinator of the successful 6 initiative campaign to fix what's broken in Washington. Those 6 initiatives you've heard about tonight. Her past work for Pierce County includes chair of Charter Review Commission and Redistricting Commission. Currently, she is a Pierce County Planning Commissioner and serves on the Children's Advisory Board. This is an amazing woman. After years of contributing behind the scenes, Sharon has decided to step out and run for the office of State Treasurer. 12 years ago, she ran as a successful statewide writing campaign during the primary ballot for State Treasurer. This year, Sharon is once again making a run to become Washington State Treasurer. With her knowledge, experience, and background, she is the logical choice. Sharon is asking for your support, help her over the finish line. Your support can take many forms, displaying yard signs, organizing events, and crucially, contributing to her campaign. As Sharon's journeys across the state, she eagerly anticipates the opportunity to meet you. So each one of these candidates who are before you need your support in some way. She's the only Republican running against a Democrat, so certainly the Republicans who are going to come out to vote are going to vote for her. She's going to be going after the independents and any of the soft Democrats. So any influence that you can have in her campaign would be very much appreciated. Clark County Republican Women will publicize and make her available for you to get to meet as well. Now, about Clark County Republican Women. I joined CCRW back in 2017 when I was still a King County resident. Why? Because Clark County Republican Women is doing things. We have a motto in that we are serious business and serious fun, and the Republican women are the life of the party. I have a couple of my officers here. Have you stand. Anna Miller is our membership chair right over there. Justine Stemmel right here. Tricia Davis is in the house. I think she is our first vice president. And I would like all of the men and women who are members to raise your hands. Look at this. Did you hear me say men and women, women and men? Men, we have over 90 members, a part of our group, and women, and over 175, I believe. We are the largest women's group in the state, 29 clubs under the National Federation of Republican Women and the Washington State Federation. We have 6 meetings, dinner meetings, where we educate, inform, and it is a great place for people to come, like-minded, enjoy each other's company, great food, free wine and beer. And we do 6 quality newsletters. We send those out per year. Anna, did I miss anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to say.
We would like to have you join.
The best president ever in this line.
We have 4 new members here tonight that joined. Thank you so much for joining. We're accepting new members. Always accepting new members. Oh, I should have my little show and tells. We are at our next event is going to be the Member Appreciation Gathering at Mark Engelman's Freedom Compound. That's going to be on July 14th. That's for members, so come and join us. It's at no cost to you. And then we have a sponsored event. This is a member perk where we are doing firearm permit class in September 7th. You need to be a member to join. And this is like your driver's ed for getting your, being able to carry a gun across the river into Oregon and multiple states. So that's a great benefit. Anything else, Justine? Well, they can find out about membership. It's inexpensive. You get great value. Reduced prices for dinner. Come and see me at the table. Thank you, everybody.
Great job, Liz. There's a key component that holds together a constitutional republic, and it's not something that we see, and it's that virtue. Without living life with a standard of morality, our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights are nothing more than pieces of paper. So please give a huge round of applause for our next three candidates and our junior panel that want to accurately represent your majority voice and uphold it. And David Olson. Please give them a huge round of applause. Last call for David Olson. See him in the bathroom, anybody? Okay, so we have three questions for Dale and Sue. First two questions, they have 3 minutes. The last question, they have 1 minute. So first question, Dale, for you, is in regards to enhancing election security and increasing transparency. Dale, your platform emphasizes the need to enhance election security by implementing cutting-edge technologies and protocols to protect against fraud and interference. Can you provide specific examples of the technologies and protocols you plan to introduce and how they will effectively safeguard our elections? Additionally, how will you increase transparency with the electoral process to ensure greater public oversight and confidence?
So people think that enhanced technology needs to be something new and innovative and creative, but sometimes less is more. We have the technology, we've had the technology to count ballots effectively for thousands of years, and these digits right here. So we really need to get back to basics and start hand counting ballots again, having rigorous audits, of our elections post-election, so that we can give the electorate the confidence that our elections are safe and secure. That's how we do that. This is nothing new. It's something we've been doing for a long time in the United States and across the world. The reality is that machine counting has actually slowed down the process of counting ballots. And hand counting was actually much more efficient at a precinct level. Unfortunately, that's not going to go away overnight. However, we need to secure our ballots and our votes by effectively auditing after every single election, whether that's a presidential primary, whether that's a special election. We must go in and conduct very rigorous audits of those elections to ensure that what's coming out of the machine is what we're counting by hand. Clarifying the second part of the question.
Hello? I can't hear back there.
Difficult hearing in the back.
Additionally, how will you increase transparency within the electoral process to ensure greater public oversight and confidence?
Do we have any election observers in here? Anyone? Okay. I don't know about in Clark County, but in Spokane County, when election observers get too close, they're told to back up, you're making people uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but voting is the most fundamental civic duty we have in our republic, and it has to be safeguarded. If you are being paid to count ballots, then you better get comfortable being uncomfortable. We have the right to observe and ensure that our elections are safe. I'm I'm going to put the auditors on notice that you cannot claim bullying without evidence. You cannot claim that people are dissenting and making people uncomfortable. That is not grounds for you to throw election observers out, and it always leans one-sided. We know this. So transparency is you get to do your job as election observers while they're counting ballots to ensure that the ballots are being counted properly, that the signatures are matching, and you should be able to call into question if you guys see something that ought not be passed. So if there's a signature you guys think doesn't match, you should be able to make a note of it and it should be reviewed. These aren't difficult tasks to implement. There's just certain people don't want to implement them, right? So these are very easy things that we can do and accomplish.
Thank you so much for being here. In responsible forestry and agriculture. Sue, your platform focuses on creating jobs in responsible forestry and agriculture. Could you elaborate on the specific policies and initiatives you plan to introduce to achieve this? And how will you ensure that these job creation efforts are both environmentally sustainable and economically beneficial? Additionally, how do you plan to support local farmers and foresters in adapting to these new practices and technologies to enhance productivity and sustainability in a long term?
I can speak better if I'm standing. Wow, that's a lot of good questions. So overall, my first answer is I'm a Republican because I believe in limited government. So the first thing I want to work on with agriculture is lessening the regulations that those poor farmers are having to deal with. Thank you. And one way I hope to achieve that is to have a really heart-to-heart discussion at the top levels of government about why do we have so many environmental agencies at the state level and the federal level, and the regulations have just gotten out of control. I want to really take an evaluation of how many different agencies have to tell this farmer what to do with his own land. I believe that landowners, and particularly farmers and forest owners, I think they're the best people to take care of their lands, and I think they're the most motivated people to take care of their lands. So I'm old enough to remember when we all may have thrown garbage out our car window or, you know, done something that was not kind to the environment. I'm talking about when the Love Canal caught on fire because it was too polluted. Those days are over, and people have learned how to take better care of the land and the water. We're all pretty smart, and if somebody doesn't know and they do something that's not a good idea, we educate them. I really believe in the goodness of people and their intelligence. So I'm not sure I caught all of your question there.
Okay, how do you plan to support local farmers and foresters in adapting to these new practices and technologies to enhance productivity and sustainability long term?
Okay, thank you. So one of the key natural resources in any land use enterprise, whether it's farming or growing trees, is water. Water is so important to all of us, and our governments seem to keep working on taking away water rights in many different ways, whether it's a nonprofit suing a county who let a couple dig a well. I mean, there are people who really want the water to go all to the government. I disagree with that. I feel strongly that as far as our forests go, We have stop logging. We have trees that were planted for harvest that were not planted. They're getting way too big, bigger than the space they were allotted when they were planted. Uh-oh, I'm out of time. I missed that yellow sheet. Okay.
You can continue that with, you can finish your answer too on the next question, no problem, Sue, you sure can. So just as a reminder, to improve accessibility to voting and strengthening community ties, what strategies do you propose to expand access to voting for all Washingtonians, including those with disabilities, language barriers, or living in remote areas? How will you work with local communities to understand and address their specific needs and challenges in this regard?
Well, first, it's not the right of all Washingtonians to vote, it's only the right of the citizen to vote, so I want to clarify. Secondly, we have a great example of this in Snohomish County. There's a gentleman running for legislature there called Sam Sim. He's a Korean American. He's broken barriers. The Koreans are coming out in droves, realizing they're not Democrats or Republicans. So we use that model. We get into these communities that are very Republican. They just don't know it. There's a language barrier. We need to utilize folks like Sam to get into these communities and say, guys, you've been lied to. You've been sold a bill of goods that isn't true. You are truly a family-oriented culture, like the Koreans, even the Chinese, the Japanese. They are very family-oriented cultures. So we need to engage with them and let them know there's a party out there who's willing to fight for these values. The other part was the first part. I apologize.
The need to enhance election security by implementing cutting-edge technologies.
Yeah. Well, no, that was the first question. Sorry. That was so long. Sorry, I apologize. I forget the
strategies to propose to expand access to voting. You just talked about language barriers, disabilities, living in remote areas.
Okay. So expanding accessibility. So there were 60,000 ballots that were returned because of in the presidential primary without the party declaration checked on the front of their ballot. That is stifling the vote. The Democrats like to talk about accessibility. Well, there were 60,000 people in the state of Washington who didn't feel like their Washington State constitutional right to privacy of the vote was being upheld, so they returned their ballots without checking the box. Their votes didn't count. That is not improving accessibility, that is stifling it. We absolutely must give those who want access to in-person voting the right to go and vote in person. And let's not conflate dropping them a ballot at the auditor's office with in-person voting. It's not the same thing. The Democrats like to say, well, you can vote in person, you can go drop your ballot off at the auditor's office. They're just going to throw it in the pile. That's not what we mean. We mean we want the community to get together, we want to go down together, and despite our differences, we're going to get together and go vote for those that we want to represent us in the state of Washington. That's how we're going to improve accessibility, expanding the way that we can vote.
Thank you. Okay, Sue, and this is on preventing forest fires and increasing revenue for public schools and services. Sue, is it true that only Sue can prevent forest fires? I had to, I'm sorry. Okay, moving on. Preventing forest fires is a critical issue in our region. What comprehensive strategies do you propose to reduce the risk of forest fires, and how will these strategies be implemented efficiently? Also, do you aim to increase revenue for public schools and services? Can you outline how your plans for responsible forestry and ag will contribute to this goal?
Thank you. I'm going to finish my last answer, which was about water and farmers. So trees are drinking up a lot of water, and we have way too many trees. This goes to answer the next question. The trees need to be thinned out. There's not enough room for all those trees to grow. So that's the first thing. The Democrats to call it selective harvesting. They don't like to call it logging either. They call it carbon sequestration. So they have new terminology, but they're going to be doing the right things. In 2020, when I ran for this office before, I had the opportunity to debate with the incumbent 8 different times by Zoom. It was during COVID, so we had Zoom debates. And all the other statewide races only got 1 debate. So I got 8 debates with the incumbent who's leaving this office. And I just hammered on her. She was all about hiring more firefighters, getting more airplanes to spew the fire retardant all over the land. And I said, no, 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 no. We need to prevent the fires. Prevention. I hammered on the concept of preventing forest fires. So one of my very simple ideas, which she embraced, ultimately, my ideas ended up in House Bill 1168, and it was passed unanimously the next session in Olympia, unanimously by the House, the Senate, and Governor Inslee signed it. I don't even know of any other bills that were passed unanimously. So I am super proud to have had some influence on that bill. And then the legislature funded $500 million over the next 10 years to implement those ideas. So that's one thing I've done. And all of my competitors, I'm very pleased they've all embraced all my ideas from 2020, and that's great. However, I keep looking forward, and this is the thing I really want to emphasize. I gave this tip to the incumbent, but she didn't do much with it. She reached 0.04% of the people in Washington with information about how to prepare your property, whether it's a home, you know, in the suburbs or a ranch or a forest. I said, teach people how to prepare their property to prevent fires. And she made a little effort on that, but I'm going to take that to town. I am going to spread the word in National Ad Council, in utility bills. I really want the whole state to understand this is not a problem that the Department of Natural Resources can possibly solve without everyone's help.
Last question, it's the same question for both Dale and Sue. You'll have 1 minute to answer, and we all appreciate each of you stepping up to run and accurately represent our majority voice. We want to give you 1 more minute each to be able to communicate to everyone why you should earn their vote.
The incumbent, Steve Hobbs, has now done 2 things that are violating your constitutional rights. The first thing, he's contracted with a foreign intelligence firm called Logically AI to surveil all social media posts, all news media posts. So anytime you comment on social media, on news media about election disinformation, misinformation, and emerging election narratives, he is getting a report about it. Secondly, we just found out that he is currently removing the 30-day residency requirement for Washington State, which is actually on Article 6, Section 1 of Washington State Constitution says you have to have a 30-day residency requirement to vote in the state of Washington. He is trying right now to abolish it. I just had a press release today. I will stand for your guys' constitutional rights. I come from a country that doesn't have the First Amendment. It must be cherished, protected at all costs. I will go to the Secretary of State's office. I will fight for the right only for the citizen vote, and I will ensure that we are protecting our constitutional rights and freedoms in Washington State and in this country.
Excuse me. Well, I am the only candidate in my race for Commissioner of Public Lands who has 30 years of professional, actual working experience in natural resources. I've had a wonderful career. I couldn't have asked for a more fun professional life. I got to study salmon. I grew up at a salmon hatchery, and just up the river here. And I learned about forest management, habitat restoration, salmon harvest. I was salmon harvest manager for point in my career up on Puget Sound, I worked at Seattle City Light as a senior environmental analyst, and I was in charge of 12 agencies and their permits for the city was building a new hydropower plant. So I have a very broad range of experience, and I'm the one who thinks outside the box, frankly. So thank you very much.
The story is astonishing as to what they have to share. For the last, it was 2015 when, before President Trump was president, he became aware of her work. And in 2017, he nationally recognized the remarkable work that the Remembrance Project is doing. Please give a huge round of applause for Maria Espinoza.
Thank you, Mike, for inviting us here to speak. And I think we're looking for Brad Benton, if he'd come up. Oh, he's on his way up. Yeah. So, as Mike said, we have a short time, so I'm going to talk really fast, y'all. And I thank God for being here and having the Remembrance Project, and for my husband right over there. The Remembrance Project would not exist if it wasn't for him. So please thank him, because I get all the attention. He's a professional engineer, but listen, as Mike said, President Trump recognized our organization in 2015. If you heard of the angel moms and dads and the angel families, that's our organization. We are a voice for Americans who were killed by illegal aliens. And recently it was reported that 2,000 Americans are killed each year by people who shouldn't be here in the country in the first place. 2,000 families shattered, crippled, destroyed, forever changing their family tree, their legacy. And this is what's happening all across the United States, not just the border states. We have these Stolen Lives quilt banners that we created in 2009 right away, because we realized that this information wasn't getting out there. The Stolen Lives quilt banners are utilized to connect the dots for everyone. In Washington State, in Texas, in Idaho, in Montana, every single state, there is a citizen who was killed by an illegal alien. Now, y'all remember Kate Steinle, correct? Yeah. We thought that sanctuary city policies would be removed after the national attention that that killing received. And you know, that went nowhere. We're not only a sanctuary city policies in different states, we are a sanctuary country. The Biden administration has made the United States of America a sanctuary country. Countries have emptied their prisons, their mental institutions. They are here. They pushed them here. The Biden administration has allowed them to come here. And just recently, you remember Laken Riley, the young 22-year-old student who was killed, beaten to death by an illegal alien. And just recently on the way up here, there was a young 12-year-old young girl from Houston who was raped and murdered by 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela. So this is actually a list that I printed out and put together. And I can't go through all of it. I know my time is limited. Rachel Morin, the Maryland mother of 5, 37 years old, went out for a walk. This is a beautiful place here. She went out for a walk, enjoyed the days that we do every single day, and she was jumped. The illegal alien was hiding in a culvert and attacked her, bashed her head in. There was a young boy, 11-year-old, who was he was in the school bus. The illegal alien crossed the center line, ran into the school bus, turned over, and young Aiden Clark was killed. 2 dozen children were also sent to the hospital. Illegal alien and his passenger were sent to the hospital. They survived. And Spencer Govach in Houston, Texas, 25-year-old entrepreneur. He employed 9 people. He employed 9 people. He built out his guitar shop with his own hands. You know those jobs that they say Americans don't want anymore? He was sitting at a traffic light, again, something that we do every single day, many times a day. Illegal alien pulled up beside him and shot him in the head. No reason. That illegal alien was on a rampage. So we have recent killings of Americans by people who shouldn't be here in the first place. Felicia Ruiz, 17-year-old girl, stabbed over 39 times. That Venezuelan who killed her is still free. In Venezuela, we understand through the U.S. Marshals that he has 2 children, 2 daughters of his own to raise. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge problem here. The southern border has been wide open ever since this administration took office. We're from Texas. We know, I've been down there, went town hall and press conferences. President Trump is the only one who was listening to our families. President Trump signed a proclamation declaring the National Day of Remembrance in November. We extended it last year to a month-long remembrance. I'll be reaching out to some of you here and to Mike to help us remember our fellow Americans who should still be here. If it wasn't for our representatives who lack the courage or just are unwilling, maybe they don't want the responsibility, so they say they don't have authority. But you have some good candidates up here. I want you to question them. And every single candidate in any town hall, I want you to tell them they must talk about the killings of Americans by illegal aliens. You look at the news, only recently are they talking about it. Every single representative on every single level of government can stop this. And mass deportation is a must. And by the way, illegal immigration is not a race. It is not racist. Over half of the Hispanics want mass deportation. And in fact, we want facilities to house these illegal aliens while they get deported back to their country of origin, to reunite them with their families. So, I know I'm taking more time. Listen, I just beg you to continue your prayers, but don't forget about all of these Americans. Go to the remembrance.project.org. You will see many, many of these panels. We are so busy trying to keep up with what is taking place, and the media is at fault as well. They are not reporting it. They are hiding the fact that our loved ones are being killed, and they're hiding that they are killed by illegal aliens. God bless y'all, and thank you again. Thank you, Mike, for this opportunity.
Please give it up for Maria and Tim. I should share remembranceproject.org. Please connect with Maria and Tim today. You can find out how you can make a difference. All of our families follow a legal process to come here to our United States. If someone is here illegally, they don't have the right to vote. They shouldn't have the same rights that we do. It's impossible to think that an election could be attempted to be stolen by someone who should not be here in the first place. Is anybody in here going to allow that to happen? No way. Not going to happen. Not on our watch, that's for sure. Please join me in a huge round of applause for our final panel as we welcome to the stage Judge David Larson, Pete Serrano, Joe Kent, and Semi Burr. Huge round of applause for them. So many of the candidates that are here today have expressed how grateful they are for this opportunity, and that certainly means a lot. Judge, start with you.
think this is the first time we have a judge up here. It's exciting. Judge Dave Larson. This is on motivations and visions for the state's highest court. Judge Larson, with your extensive experience as a trial judge and your background as a highly rated trial lawyer, what motivated you to seek a position on the state's highest court? How do your personal values and professional experiences shape your vision for addressing the current challenges within our criminal justice system? Specifically, what initiatives would you prioritize to improve coordination and strategy within the criminal justice system across the state?
Thank you. That's a great question. But we got 3 minutes, you said? Oh, we're like 3 hours. But really, let me answer it this way from the standpoint of what it means to be a judge. First of all, you have to love the fact that your objective, your only oath is to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Washington. There's no room for politics. It's just pure the law and the Constitution. So Article 1, Section 1 of our state constitution says all political power is inherent in the people. Governments derive their just, and I emphasize just, powers from the consent of the governed. And the purpose of the government is to protect and maintain individual rights. We've gotten a little bit away from that in recent years. And the idea is to bring us back to that very, very basic provision. There's a provision in our Constitution, Article 1, Section 32, that says a frequent recurrence to fundamental principles is essential to individual right and the perpetuity of free government. And the reason that's in there is because we have to constantly bathe ourselves in the principles that make us free. And if we don't do that, what's happened for thousands of years is a conflict between people that want to be free and the people who want to dominate and control. And right now, the people that want to be free just want to live and love. People want to dominate and control, keep encroaching until you have to push back. Right now, we're at the edge of a cliff, and it's either fall off the cliff or push back. When it comes to criminal justice, I've been actually recognized nationally in terms of my strategies, and I don't want everybody glaze over with the technicalities, but right now we have a very fragmented system that keeps passing people back and forth, and there's ways to do this, and our Supreme Court's been silent. Rome's burning, and they've been fiddling, right? They fiddle with a lot of other stuff, and a lot of other things, but this has been the lowest priority. So in the trial courts, we're flailing around, and the strategies I've developed have started being accepted in the legislature on both sides of the aisle, and we're starting to make progress. And to get me on the Supreme Court, we'd be able to help the trial courts actually deal with the issues that are facing our community in an organized way instead of the fragmented and chaotic way we're doing it now. Thank you.
Pete, my question for you is on the topic of priorities and initiatives as Attorney General. So Pete, with your track record of accomplishments in Pasco, such as your role in the National Opioid Settlement Agreement and bringing the Basic Law Enforcement Academy Training Center to the city, what specific initiatives would you prioritize as Washington State Attorney General to enhance community safety and address the state's drug crisis? How do you plan to implement these initiatives to ensure they align with the principles of justice, effective governance, and the state constitution?
Well, thank you for that. I got to give credit to the City of Pasco staff, especially our Chief of Police, who lobbied hard to get the Basic Law Enforcement Academy down in Pasco. I mean, he worked his butt off. He worked with the state. He lobbied legislatures. And we've actually had what I've understood is 10 people that have come through that academy who have stayed in the Tri-Cities who would have not otherwise been police officers. So whether it's across the river where Semi lives or whether it's in Pasco where I live, our communities are benefiting. And it wasn't just Chief Roski. You know, it was a collective process from the city council, from other cities that are working with us. So I don't take credit for that. My staff did a heck of a job, our chief did a heck of a job. What I will tell you is this. Our legislature's failing us. They're seeking to decriminalize drugs, whether it's possession or consumption or both. Monka Dingra was the architect of that. She's one of my two opponents. Nick Brown, his comment when he was appointed United States Attorney by Joe Biden, in speaking to NPR, his comment was, "I'd rather seek minimum sentencing standards so that these people, when they get out, have a fair shot." I'm here to tell you that the rule of law is to be obeyed. I will work with the legislature and say, we're going to make sure we recriminalize these. Let's get folks in jail who are pushing drugs illicitly. Let's make sure those folks that are doing it subversively, manufacturers, those who are involved in opioids or other drugs, so-called drugs, that they're held accountable under the Consumer Protection Act. Just this week, the Kansas Attorney General filed a 180-page complaint that includes multiple documents to sue Pfizer when they claimed that their shot was safe and effective. When I go to meet with the Republican Attorney Generals Association, I'm hoping he's there. And I'm hoping I can say, buddy, cut and paste, pal. Let's make sure that when corporations do illicit things and harm the people of Washington, that we're penalizing them too. And again, going back to the war on drugs, let's prosecute to the fullest. Thank you.
Joe, this question's for you as you're running for our 3rd Congressional District. This question's about the priorities and initiatives as a congressman. Your campaign focuses on restoring common sense Republican values and addressing the issues you see as critical to the district. What specific initiatives would you prioritize to improve the economic conditions and public safety in Washington's 3rd Congressional District? And how do you plan to address the increasing concerns over illegal immigration and its impact on the community while ensuring that these initiatives align with both local needs and national constitutional principles?
It's a great question. So, look, number one, we've got to shut down the border. The border's wide open. What people need to realize about this border crisis is that this isn't a mistake. This is not because Joe Biden's just incompetent and kind of goofy and then left the border open and Perez is kind of hammering on. This is a deliberate strategy by the Democrats to flood the country with as many people as they possibly can because they want to jack up the census numbers so that they can legislate their way into new U.S. House of Representatives seats and new Electoral College votes. This is a pure power play by the Democrats. All the murders that we just talked about, all the fentanyl deaths, that is collateral damage to the Democrats. That is how sick these people are. Congress has one main lever they can pull on, and that is the purse strings. Congress controls the budget. The U.S. Congress should not be doing anything right now until the border is secure. The president has all the power that he needs right now to shut down and to secure the border, and I would not give him one penny until he does that. It's the only leverage that Congress has. Also, there's H.R. 2, which is probably the most aggressive border control measures and immigration policy that we've ever put forward. Marie Perez and every Democrat voted against that. Perez then went on to say, well, no one stays awake at night about the southern border. So, number one priority, they're basically mocking us to our faces, and then they're going to try and say, oh no, it's the Republicans that turned down a deal that would codify an invasion of our country. So that is all psychological warfare that they're waging on us. Luckily, the people are seeing through that, and right now the border is a top issue because of the fentanyl deaths and just because of the carnage. That's the first priority. The second priority is to stop spending us into oblivion. Washington, D.C. printing billions and trillions of dollars, $2.5 trillion over the budget every single year that Biden's been in power. That is what's driving the cycle of inflation. The war on U.S. energy, that's driving the cycle of inflation. So it's very simple. Congress has to do some very hard things, and that's going to be cuts across the board, balance the budget, pass individual appropriations bills, stop this nonsense with omnibuses where they jam all the appropriations bills together and it runs up the debt. No one reads the bill, they pass it in the dead of night. That's got to end. We've got to get back to prioritizing American citizens, being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. We don't need to raise people's taxes. We're overtaxed enough as it is, but we need to stop the money printing and demand that our government stop worrying about every other country in the world and putting our country last. Secure our own borders.
This question is for Byrd, as you guys know, gubernatorial candidate, on judicial accountability and statewide safety initiatives. Semi, as a candidate for the most powerful position in our state, you have emphasized the critical need for holding judges, it's kind of awkward, right? Judges and prosecutors accountable to ensure community safety. Can you elaborate on the specific mechanisms you would implement to enhance accountability and oversight in the judicial and prosecutorial offices, such as the Judicial Watch Performance Report?
Yeah, no, thank you. So we actually put out our law and order platform a year ago. So while the other candidates are fighting around their new platforms now, we've been out there with solutions for a while. And so our Judicial Watch is simply this. These are elected positions, and our citizens need to know who they're voting for. When you have this revolving door that is catch and release, or you're not even prosecuting or bringing accountability to these habitual criminals who are compromising our public safety, well, then you need to be held accountable. And so if you're going back up for office and you're continuing to perform your duties that are causing a compromise to our public safety, well, then we're going to rate you. And we're going to say if you're causing a compromise to public safety, then your rating is going to go down. So when you come back for election, people are going to remember that. And they're going to say, well, we are not going to put you back into office because we remember how you released this criminal who murdered this person, or you caught and released, or you minimized their bail. For example, we lost one of our state troopers, an illegal immigrant, right? Trooper Gad. Within 1 year of him graduating, he was murdered by an illegal immigrant, again, drunk driving, and that person shouldn't have even been here. And then the judge reduced his bail. This is an offense to not only our judicial system, to his family. And his family have to be close friends of mine. But it doesn't matter. It's all of our citizens who are at risk. So no, that's just one example. We don't have enough public defenders. And so why are we not talking about the fact that you cannot prosecute a case if you do not have the public defenders to also defend those criminals? And so now cases are being dismissed. RCW 43.06.10 says the governor can actually appoint the Attorney General's office to provide support for county prosecutors. So instead of them catching and releasing because they don't have enough help, well then that's the state government help them start prosecuting criminals. And so instead of putting more career politicians in office, why not put a governor who's a career American who will actually have a backbone to support public safety and actually do something about it because he actually knows the law and the Constitution, which according to Article 1, Section 2 of our Constitution says the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. I will use it as my foundation of governance.
Okay, so this is on the topic of judicial independence and legal interpretation. Judge Larson, you have emphasized the importance of respecting and following our state constitution and the proper role of the courts in upholding and interpreting the law. Can you elaborate on how you would ensure judicial independence while serving on the state's highest court? How do you plan to navigate cases that involve contentious legal and constitutional issues, ensuring that your decisions are both legally sound and reflective of the principles enshrined in our Constitution? Additionally, how will you work to maintain public confidence in the judiciary and its role in a balanced and just legal system that adheres to the state Constitution?
Again, 3 minutes. Okay. So you have to be grounded in principles. If you're not grounded in principles, it has to be, in other words, right now the problem we have is our compass is broken. And so if you don't, if you remember that Article 1, Section 32, frequent recurrence to fundamental principles, the essential to individual right, well, it's also essential to all free rights of the government. So the people, I've actually written a thing that I've presented now called How Freedom Works. You can imagine
the Constitution as being the foundation of our country. What I talk about is the hard pattern that the foundation sits in. And it's a belief system. If you don't believe it, then it's just words on paper. An example I used at the Clark County Republic of Women was, I read from a constitution of another country, and they had free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, etc. It was communist China. So if you don't believe in those underlying principles, if the foundation's sitting on a loose bedrock, then you end up failing that, and then confidence in the system is depleted, because now you're making decisions based upon power instead of responsibility. You're making decisions on where the result dictates the law rather than the law dictates the result, and then you lose confidence, and it then becomes political, and exactly where we are now, where people don't have confidence. And really, we don't have a military, we don't have a police, we don't have anything to enforce. The only thing we have in the courts to enforce is the confidence in the people and the outcome of the decision. And you gotta if you're grounded in principles, and grounded in the Constitution, and grounded in those things, public confidence will come from that. Now, judicial independence, there's a thing called the Council on Independent Courts that was formed about 3 years ago. That was formed based on the work I have done going throughout the state and protecting judicial independence throughout the state. One thing I want to make sure everybody knows before we go is that this is an open seat. It's the first time in 12 years there's been an open seat. The standard is for the incumbent to resign, and under our state constitution, the governor appoints the replacement, right? They become the incumbent. There's no confirmation process. There's no check and balance. It's so one person has selected 169 of the 205 judges that are currently sitting on Superior Court, Court of Appeals, and Supreme Court. That's a threat to judicial independence. When one person, it was one of the grievances in the Declaration of Independence that the king got to appoint the judges, and the judges only answered to the king. Not that Governor Inslee's a king. But the point is that, and I can't be political, but nobody's a king. This would be wrong if it was Governor Larson. It would be wrong. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the biggest threat to judicial independence, is the power condensed in one person to select who the judges are. And this is an opportunity for the people themselves to decide the outcome. My main opponent is endorsed by 8 of the 9 justices, and he's blowing the horn on that. I told the Seattle Times that's exactly why they need to endorse me, because they need a different voice than they need. It's because I'm not endorsed by them that makes me special. And judicial independence comes from
trafficking. Can you elaborate on the comprehensive strategies you plan to develop in collaboration with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies to combat human trafficking effectively? Additionally, how will you balance these efforts with your advocacy for constitutional rights, particularly in the context of responsible firearm ownership and ensuring public safety amidst rising crime rates and involving legislation changes in Washington State? So if a legal comes to my house and wants to cause some problems, I think we need to answer that.
Yeah. Let me start with where I am today, or actually where I'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be in King County Superior Court arguing on your behalf to make sure that Initiative 2081, the Parents' Bill of Rights, is well defended. So, for everyone that remembers, in that 6-pack of initiatives, one of those was the Parents' Bill of Rights, which makes sure that you as a parent or grandparent or guardian have access to materials in the schools and have access to the information that's being taught to your children and told to your children in their health records. Now, Let's Go Washington, Jim Walsh, One Washington, and Informed Choice of Washington were all integral in the passing of that, and we're seeking to have them as status in that case. And I'm excited that we have the ability to do that. Because here's the deal. Whether it's Mike being worried about the police coming to his house to bust down the door because someone makes false allegations about him, his wife, or his children, or their relationship, it all starts in the schools. If we can't protect our kid when they're out of our control and in the government's hands for that brief, temporary moment of 6 to 8 hours, we're never going to have control of our children, and the state will always seek more and more and more. And I can tell you this because I spent the past couple hours reading the pleadings of these organizations. All they want is more. Your kids are not your kids. These private organizations, the state, see them as collateral. We absolutely have to stand for it. So what am I going to do? Tomorrow I'll defend you. When I'm elected Attorney General in January 2025, or technically November, but sworn in January, I will make sure that I work comprehensively with local PD, local prosecutors, as well as the WSP, the Washington State Patrol. We will make sure that individuals who are actually trafficking kids, drugs, or whatever it may be, that they are prosecuted. Again, back to the same common theme, prosecution of the bad guys. 2, make sure they have the resources. Does somebody need a grant? As Mr. Burgess said, you know, there's an opportunity for the governor to tell me what to do. There's also an opportunity for me to tell local prosecutors what to do. You're not doing your job. You're not checking out these kids that are getting trafficked. And so I look at the city of Pasco, and while we're one of the safest cities in the state of Washington, we do have concerns with trafficking. It has to do with the geographic location where we are. We're in that 182 corridor. We're also in a very high intensive ag area. So we have lots of folks that come in, these kids come with them, or they leave with them, or whatever the case may be. And so we've worked with our officers to make sure they're A, trained, and B, they have linguistic expertise, not just in English and Spanish, but you know, we have some of the Slavic groups, making sure that they have linguistic expertise to make sure they can communicate effectively with these individuals. So that's the starting point, but tomorrow is step number 1.
Yeah. On legislative strategies and community engagement. Joe, given your experience as a foreign policy advisor and your stance on reducing federal spending, what legislative strategies would you implement to balance fiscal responsibility with the need for essential community services? How do you intend to foster direct engagement with your constituents, ensuring transparency and responsiveness, particularly in the context of continuous issues like border security, election integrity, and federal funding for local projects?
Awesome. So the way you engage and stay connected is by doing events like this. I mean, my campaign last time and this time we did, I think we're close to 400 in-person town halls. I see a lot of familiar faces here. So if you come to one of my town halls, you know you can ask me any question, and I'm going to continue to do that while I'm in Congress, because I'm accountable to you guys, not to the people in Washington, D.C. first and foremost. The issue we have right now, it's a huge crisis with the budget. I mean, we are $35 trillion in debt. If you look big picture, what's happening with de-dollarization, with the BRICS nations, with Russia, with China, we have a tidal wave that's approaching and really no one's sounding the alarm. Our financial rug could be pulled out from underneath us when a lot of these countries stop backing their currency with the dollar. We've got to get our financial house in order, and that starts with prioritizing, and we have to prioritize American citizens. We take in close to $5 trillion in tax revenue, securing our border, doing local infrastructure projects like the third bridge, like making sure our interstate commerce, our federal highways are actually functional and serving the people. That's just basic government stuff 101. We can most certainly do that. We've got to stop the bleeding of how much money that we're printing, but also look, a first place that we can start is how much money we're sending overseas. I spent most of my adult life fighting in our wars overseas. I can talk about those all night and how wasteful they were. We are continuing to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on foreign aid and on foreign wars for one very simple reason. It makes people rich in Washington, D.C. That's it, period, end of story. I'm not saying we need to abandon the world. We still have some commitments. We can fulfill them, but we need to make sure our allies are doing their part. But we got to make sure that we're safe and secure here at home first. So it starts with being good stewards of your dollar, making sure our country is secure, and making sure that if we are ever going to go to war, we follow the Constitution, we make sure there's a vote on it in Congress, and we make sure that the people are on board, and we can define what the vital national security interest is. The way that we are right now being marched towards World War III on multiple fronts, whether it's the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Biden, without asking Congress, just authorized U.S. weapons to be fired into Russia. He is trying to get us into World War III. You guys know what the recruiting numbers are looking like right now? They're not good. They have automatic draft registration for males going into effect, and they're talking about registering females for the draft. That's around the corner if we don't get our act together. Get Washington, D.C. off of this perpetual cycle of money printing and endless wars, secure our borders, put our people first. It's going to be a fight. They're going to call us every name in the book. They're going to call us, Putin's stooges. They're going to say that we're just obstructionists because we don't want to pass the lobbyist omnibus bill. But we've got to do it. Put our citizens first.
A lot of great answers tonight. Thank you. Okay, so my next question here is for Semi Bird on the comprehensive support for law enforcement and crime reduction. Okay? So Semi, in your run for governor, you have outlined an ambitious plan to support law enforcement, including reinstatement of key laws, recruitment initiatives, and enhanced state logistical support. What specific steps will you take to implement these strategies, such as the Universal Reciprocity Program and high school recruitment pipelines, to ensure a robust law enforcement presence? Furthermore, how do you intend to integrate these efforts with your broader crime reduction strategies, including targeting drug traffickers, human traffickers, and criminal organizations to foster a safer environment for all Washingtonians?
That just sounds like fun. Thank you. No, I mean, absolutely. Where to start? The pipeline. From schools, we have schools resource officers. So those are our first mentors from middle school. So children in all communities see that law enforcement are our friends. There's something people to look up to want to follow in those footsteps. And that's where the recruiting starts. And then the Explore programs that have been abandoned from years ago, where young people at an early age are already thinking about being in the police departments or being in the sheriff's departments or wanting to pursue a career. And so that's where the pipeline starts. The reason why this is important is because Washington State is last on having enough law enforcement officers. We have the lowest number of law enforcement officers of any state in the nation. And that is a shame. And then we have a recruiting problem because no one wants to be a law enforcement officer because of the way this environment is. This governor, this administration treats law enforcement professionals like they're third-class citizens. We have these mandates and these vaccinations, and we were letting law enforcement officers go. Either you get the stab or the jab or you're out of a job, and that's nonsense. So one of the things I'm going to do is give back our state police officers, our state patrol, their jobs back. If you lost your job because you refused, you get your job back. And then we're going to start with the resolution to pledge our support and our love for those men and women in law enforcement so they know categorically we have your back. You're not going to worry about losing your life or your livelihood or your family because of that. So there's that pipeline, recruiting, retention, reciprocity, simply saying, if you want to come to Washington State and have that licensure as a peace officer in Texas or any other state, we're going to streamline that process. And we already have it started right now. We did it with nursing, we need to do it with mental health professionals, we need to do it with drug treatment professionals. And so there's that. Human trafficking, as Pete says, you have Homeland Security Investigation Bureau is the primary agency that works with human trafficking. Well, I've worked in targeting narco-terrorists, human trafficking. It's all crime syndicates, cartels. We have, am I speaking fast? We have 3 cartels operating in Washington State. We have the Sinaloa cartel operating in northeastern Washington. We have the Jalisco New Generation cartel operating right here in southwestern Washington. We have the Beltran-Lleva cartel operating in northwestern Washington. And so we need to understand how to target them. And I know how to do that because I work with Joint Interagency Task Force. I've already said in my program, we're going to form a Joint Interagency Task Force, a fusion center of intelligence to target these individuals. I know how to do it from the technology, Analyst Local, Paladin, Notebook. I've targeted these people, going after their money, going after who they know. We are bringing the heat. We're going to make dealing in narcotics, fentanyl, the #1 killer, 18 to 45, a Class A felony. And then we're going to take it solutions to that.
Sammy, just to confirm, so you think it'd be better for our society if men and women in law enforcement had more influence on our children in the public schools than drag queens? 100%. this question's for you, Dave. And you answered a little bit of this earlier, so you can expand however you'd like. So, how many current justices are in our Washington State Supreme Court? How many were appointed by Jay Inslee? How often does a Supreme Court position in Washington State come up?
At least 3. Helen Whitener, Raquel Montoya Lewis, Steve Gonzalez, Mary Yu, that's 4. I think that's 4 of the 9, or I believe, there might be 5. So, what was the next part of the question? There are 9.
Yeah, how many were appointed by Inslee?
Yeah, no, that's what I said.
How often?
At least 4, if not 9. So elections for Supreme Court justices, imagine that there's 6-year terms, and every 2 years there's 3 of them up. Okay? So this year it's Chief Justice Gonzalez and Justice Gordon McLeod, and then the open seat because Susan Owens decided to retire, right? And in 3 years there'll be, or 2 years there'll be 3 more up, 2 years there'll be 3 more up after that. So that's how often they're up for election, and there you go.
Is it fair to say that it's a rare opportunity for we the people to actually have the opportunity to have influence?
Under the way it's been in the last few years, extremely rare for there to be an open seat. And that's why I ran. I was going to retire next year. There's too many things happening and too many reasons why, like I got 4 grandchildren now, just had my 4th. Too many reasons to kind of say, wait a minute, I can't walk away from this now. I always see elected office, and I hope I influence other people that are running for office too in this way. I was with a group of elected officials, and there were some high school students that were there. I'm very involved in civics education, and there's high school students, and one of the students asked, when did you feel closest to your position? Well, each of the politicians went down the line, and one was the mayor. They talked about some initiative they had for the city. Legislator talked about a law they passed, talked about a program they created, and it got to me, and I said, I was in the back of the line at a chili cook-off. And this person that I knew came up and said, hey, Judge, how you doing? And they walked away after we talked a couple minutes. The person behind me said, hey, you're a judge, just cut up in the front of the line. And I said, actually, when I don't have my robe on, I'm like anybody else. And I told the students, the reason I told you that story is my #1 position is that of citizen. I play a role as a judge. I have a responsibility. I'm a servant, not a master. And the problem we have now is too many people seek power and not enough people seek responsibility. Huge difference in the outcome. It's about power, it's about what you do for me, and about what you owe me. And when it's about responsibility, it's my duty to you and what I owe you. And that's what our whole form of governance, Article 1, Section 1, is based on the assumption that we have people that are in love with responsibility and want to hold power at arm's length. Because power has always been destructive. And so that, above all else, is what, because right now all the things we're talking, you notice I wasn't clapping or all the political stuff because I'm so pure just trying to say anything. But inside you want to clap as a person, but as a judge. But the point is we're treating symptoms. We're not treating the underlying disease. And what I'm talking about is treating the underlying disease. The whole ethic of the way we approach governance. We're so far up, we're so interested in getting our way that we've lost our way. I'm entitled to my opinion, and you're entitled to my opinion too. And if you don't agree with me, you're whatever. There's so many, I work closely with the legislature, there's so many times the laws don't pass because the wrong person had the idea. And that's just abhorrent. Everything that anybody should ever stand for. So we got to start understanding that there's a lot deeper issues than just whether there's a third bridge or all these other things, right? Those issues are influenced by power and responsibility. I'll close, and I know I'm going over 3 minutes, but I'll close with this. I was on the Brandy Cruz show, and she asked me about why the legislature wasn't getting those initiatives through, right? And I instead of getting into a legal issue and everything else, I took it from a standpoint of the power and responsibility kind of conflict, right? And I said, if it's about power and it's your enemy, the other side that wants to get something through, you're going to do everything you can to keep it from going through, right? When it's about responsibility, if the Constitution says you're supposed to do something, you do it. And that's really the best example I can come up with, the difference between power and responsibility. Our founders hated power. That's why we have 3 branches of government and everything else. But I'll shut up at that. But the point is that unless we start treating the disease, the fact that we've lost, every year I start my street law class at Todd Beamer High School, I ask, what's the most important to protect our freedom? They go around the room, military, police, Constitution, etc. You know what the answer is? The belief that it's important. Because as soon as you stop believing it's important, then it starts to whittle away. And we are where we are right now because we stopped believing it was important.
Over the past 3 years, you have engaged in significant to address them directly. What would you convey?
Do I really need 3 minutes for that answer? I think I could say, yeah. I look forward to seeing the vacant offices. No, realistically, Silent Majority Foundation was formed to stand for you. Quite frankly, it was formed to stand for my kids. So in self-interest of preserving my kids' future, you benefit. Whether or not Jay Inslee, whether or not Joe Biden, because we sued the Biden administration, whether or not Bob Ferguson or Chris Reichdahl, whether or not Alliance for Gun Responsibility are happy with what we've done, I don't care. We have a shirt that says facts over feelings. Maybe you should say law over feelings. The reality is anyone, as the judge just gave us a perfect dissertation on, that seeks power and authority rather than responsibility and integrity doesn't deserve to sit in that seat, whether it's Bob's, Jay's, or your local city council person. What we need is individuals of integrity, and those two are not. That's what I would tell them. Say, don't let the door hit you on the ass when you get out.
Here, 2 minutes. This is on the topic of the southern border. So Joe, you have been to the southern border, and what did you see? How is it impacting our 3rd congressional district? And what should be done about illegal immigration? And what has your opponent, Marie Perez, done on illegal immigration?
I'll start with the last part there. Marie Perez is executing Joe Biden's open border plan. This is not incompetence. She voted against H.R. 2. Everything else since then has been pure performance. The bill that she proposed that she's going to talk about, it allocated $0 for the border. When D.C. cares about something, they fund it. There was no money in there. There was just words. And it left the asylum loophole open. So I've been down to the border twice. And I'll tell you that the big takeaways is that we are being invaded. When you hear 12 million, that's an estimate. I've probably seen thousands of people cross the border in the couple days I've spent down there. I think we have no idea. But the majority of people that are coming here, they're coming because Biden said, number 1, the border's open. Number 2, he provided a pathway to citizenship for these people. And we continue to give people amnesty. It's just happened the other day. 500,000 amnesty visas are being given, and these people now have a pathway to citizenship. So we are incentivizing people to come over here illegally. When Biden took office, he got rid of Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, but that really just created the demand for people to run out, cross the border, and seek first contact with the Border Patrol. That's why when you see the scenes from the border, very few of these people are actually trying to evade and sneak into the country. They're trying to run to the first Border Patrol person they can find and say, hey, I'm here for amnesty. They all know exactly what to say. The Democrats designed it that way. We can immediately tell whoever is in the White House, and I pray it's President Trump because we won't need to remind him. We're going to support him. I think it's going to be Donald Trump, but we need to support him and say, hey, get the military down to the border, finish the wall, because the wall will stop the fentanyl from coming through. And I I went down to the San Diego border because when I talked to law enforcement here in the district, I've done ride-alongs pretty much in all of our county, and they all said, hey, we've got a fentanyl problem, it's killing our citizens, it's coming up the I-5 corridor from the San Diego crossing. When I went down there, I saw, hey, there's the illegal immigrants that are coming across, but then at night, there's also, well, the Border Patrol is distracted with those that are claiming amnesty, there's people bringing the fentanyl in through the gaps in the border. Finish the wall, get the military down there, mass deportations, cut off any ability that people have to make money here legally. A lot of them will self-deport. Dictate that our federal government stops chasing down grandmothers that were somewhere near the Capitol on January 6th and start going after the terrorists and the other.
Send me next questions for you. You have 2 minutes. How do we turn around our economy in Washington State, and where do you make cuts in the current budget?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick on that one too. We start on day one with a third-party audit of all state programs and all state offices. We know where the money's going, so we have the highest liquor tax in the nation. We've had a gas tax for decades. Have you seen the roads lately, right? We have a marijuana tax. We have a gambling tax. We need to know where the money's going. So my job, I'm a behavioral scientist, but I don't do clinical, I do organizational psychology. So my occupation is a business consultant. Corporations hire me to come in, whether it's aerospace, whether it's universities, or hospitals, urban and rural. I come in and I do things like Lean or Six Sigma methodology. I find where the waste is and I remove the waste, or I measure performance. I bring strategy. I do strategic analysis. So I have the knowledge, skills, and abilities. So the assessment that we're going to do is finding where the money is. It's finding out how these programs are functioning. We pay people billions of dollars to stay poor for generations, instead of bringing trades and bringing certifications to raise them up out of poverty and despair and break that generational poverty and create jobs. So that's what we need to do, is find out how we're performing. Billions of dollars. Jay Inslee doubled the budget in 10 years to $71.5 billion. We have a homelessness program. Homelessness, they said, is up 10%. I said 23% or 25%. It's 23% year over year. We're paying billions of dollars for what when it continues to go this? We are funding habitual addiction and mental illness. That is the root cause of homelessness in Washington State, not housing. And when we're talking about housing, we're talking about these energy codes that they've raised so high, they doubled the cost of building a house or building an apartment unit, and that's why housing is unaffordable. And so there's so many things we need to do, but it has to start with understanding how our government is performing and functioning and bringing strategic accountability and transparency. That is what I do for a living, and that is what I will do as your governor when I go to work to serve you as the customer.
Would stand up and accurately represent a majority voice, zero interest in personal power for themselves, but understanding servant leadership, have their heart completely positioned in a place of serving. It's beautiful. So this question is for each of you, it's the same. 1 minute to be able to remind everyone what you would do to earn their vote, and to be able to also give somebody some encouragement as to what they can do as a point of action to go out and make a difference. And please include your thoughts on legal ballot harvesting. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I can't give an opinion on legal ballot harvesting because it's not I don't know if it's going to come before the court or not. But so I operate by 2 rules. Love the freedom of others as much or more as you love your own is rule 1. Rule 2, it's more important to do right than it is to be right. Right. Yeah. And that drives everything that I do, regardless of the context that I'm in, whether it's my personal life, my life on the bench, those type of things. I wish I could say that there needs to be some call to action for the judiciary. I think what needs to happen is we need to change the way that we elect judges, because it's right now, the way it is, the people in power, it's in their interest to keep it so you don't understand it. And we got to change that. But that is probably the call to action. When it comes to my role, again, I go back to that responsibility, is to when something comes before the court, What I guarantee I'm going to do is follow my oath, and it's going to make sense. Common sense shouldn't be uncommon.
3 years ago, my life changed. I was working out in my buddy's garage, complaining about attorneys doing nothing to stand for our rights. And then I had the thought in my mind, you're an attorney, what are you doing? That's the question I want to flip on each one of you, except not that you're an attorney part. What are you doing? You're here tonight. Great. It's been a great atmosphere, I appreciate it. But what are you doing to improve your community? What are you doing to improve your state? You want me to talk about ballot harvesting? You own a business? You go to church? You go to a gun range? You go to anywhere that's safe and secure? Do you talk to people in the stores? I got my buddy up in Spokane who's like, man, all I do is, beat people up, not physically, but, with words, telling them about how important this election is. All I do is talk, talk, talk. Are you doing that? If you're not, we need you. We need you. We'll put our necks on the line. We need you to get our 6. Go do something.
So I think it's encouraging how under fire we are, because if the situation is hopeless, their propaganda and their hate would be completely unnecessary. We are winning. This is not a blue district. This is not a blue state. We're the majority of the state. We're the majority of this country. We've just got to get the word out. So go have those hard conversations. We have a superpower. We can talk about issues the other side can't. That's why all they do is name call and spread propaganda. Get out there, talk about securing the border, talk about balancing the budget, talk about protecting our kids. Those are common sense issues we win on. For ballot harvesting, join our ballot harvesting team. Talk to my campaign manager, Flo's right back there. Go to joekenforcongress.com. Get with all, I saw like half this audience right here is PCOs. Go volunteer with a PCO. If you're a PCO in this district, I want to come knock doors with you, so get with Flo and we'll get out there. We can win, we just got to drive out that turnout. Thank you guys.
Well, on April 20th, we made history in Spokane, Washington, when we won 72% supermajority and was endorsed. We did that. And they said that nobody from nowhere with no money cannot win, has no choice, no chance, no hope of ever winning anything. And in King County, Pierce County, Snohomish County, Clark County, Spokane County, the largest counties in the state, we were rolling, and we were rolling strong. And why? Because we were here, we were there, we were there. We were out engaging with the citizens in the inner city of Seattle. Yesterday I was in King County in Jimi Hendrix Park. Thousands of people with permanent tans, like me, and some of you in the audience with a good tan. And they were coming up to me and they were saying, brother, thanks for coming back. Because I was there last year and I was there throughout the year, and they remembered, and they were saying, oh, they were talking about President Trump, hear that, and they were talking about common sense. They were talking about common sense. My friends, I'm going to go over for a second. Bear with me, please. Give me grace on this one. But my friends, you cannot give up hope, because common sense goes a long way. Protecting the innocence of our children, bringing public safety to those communities that are at risk, breaking that generational poverty that has been going on, people being subjugated and exploited. We made history. We endorsed the first black candidate for governor of any party in Washington state, not because of equity, not because of public appeal, because of merit, meritocracy, because we
Keep it going, great job. Pete Serrano, David Olson, you're doing a lot of these things. Great job.